anti-gay bill passed by Parliament last week as he continues his onslaught against the bill.
After the authentication, the Speaker would have to certify. It's when all these are done that the bill is forwarded to the President for his assent. As we speak, as the leader of the House, I can say on good authority that we've not completed the process.
We are live in Parliament today, where it has been a controversial day. As we learned today that the Finance Ministry has advised the President, warning of dire economic consequences if he signs the controversial bill into law. The minority, they've been up in arms.
This, without any iota of doubt, it's an insult to the good people of this country. The streets must be flooded. Everybody must be prepared on this matter.
We, as a people, have come together to pass this law to reflect our family values and to protect safety.
In the last few minutes, the Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, has intensified his campaign against the anti-gay bill. On the day we became aware of the Finance Ministry's advice to the President, warning of dire economic consequences if he signs a controversial bill into law. The position of the ministry has left the minority side furious. More on that shortly. But first, listen to Ms. Afenyo-Markin speaking a short while ago.
The issues that members of Parliament led by my good self raised ought to be tested by the Supreme Court of the law of the land. I mean, we are a growing democracy. This is not an emotional journey. This is about laws that have to do with the rights of citizens. So the test here is whether or not a sexual right, which is in itself being brought to question, should lead to a criminal penalty. In other words, if as a nation we say that our value systems do not support a man-to-man relationship, woman-to-woman relationship, are we also saying that the means of reforming people with that orientation is to incarcerate them? How does this position stand in accord with the Constitution? Also, the issues of advocacy, saying that a media house cannot take certain steps. How do we juxtapose that within the context of the Constitution? All these are matters that I believe that if they are tested in our Supreme Court, is going to help us to bring this matter to a good rest. For me, like I've always said, it is good to legislate against same-sex relationship. It's good to legislate and even criminalize those who will entice underage, young boys who are not of age, adults who try to engage in pedophilia. Those ones, yes, because a child below 18 does not have the necessary means to take a decision. It's not an adult enough per our laws. So you cannot entice such a person. That's for that one, we agree. But if you say that when somebody is in that situation and the person must suffer a jail term, I think that there's a problem. And the Catholic Church, a couple of days back, came out strongly to make a passionate appeal on that matter. I believe that we would have to test the law on it and see. In any event, as a country, tolerance is part of our value system. Tolerance is part of our value system. So either way, we must find a middle ground. Ultra-conservatism can alone not be the way to reform a society, transform a society, and help grow a society. Our judiciary has a new sentencing regime, which sentencing regime talks about non-custodial sentencing as a form of reform, as a form of correction. And we know that the conditions in our prisons do not help in achieving that object of transforming, that object of correcting, that object of reforming people with such behavioral traits. So we have to proceed with some caution and again urge a strong view in testing the law at the Supreme Court so that we know where we are moving to as a state. Perhaps a journalist can give it a try.
Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante joins us now. And Kweku, this was passed last week. There was no debate in the House today. So what was the context of this press conference?
Well, Alexander Afenyo-Markin has been under pressure to speak since this bill was passed. You will recall that he was the lone member of Parliament in the entire 275 House who actually stood up against this bill until it was passed. And so he's been under some pressure to speak. In fact, last week he had organized a news conference to speak to the specifics of this bill. And we understand there was an urgent meeting at the Jubilee House that he had to attend to try and help government strategize in terms of how they would deal with this pressure that has now come on the president. And so today, on the back of that Finance Ministry advice to the president not to sign, and the pressure response that has come from the minority, some of us approached the majority leader to try and get a sense of what exactly his advice would be to the president if he is asked. He will not speak to those specifics. But of course, also the question that has come up in terms of when exactly this bill gets to land on the desk of the president. Today, I've been talking to some judges to try and get some information. They expect, the sponsors I'm saying, they expect that this bill will get to the desk of the president by the end of this week. But Alexander Afenyo-Markin says that calculation is just too ambitious. And that as a leader, he's privy to the fact that there's a lot more work that will be done before the clerk finally authenticates this. And so everyone putting pressure on the president must just chill.
On the presidency regarding the LGBT law Parliament passed, well, the process is that when the bill is passed in Parliament, it has to be first compiled by the drafting department of Parliament. So you know that the bill went through several amendments. It has to be tidied up. And then thereafter, the clerk would have to authenticate it. And after the authentication, the speaker would have to certify. It's when all these are done that the bill is forwarded to the president for his assent. As we speak, as a leader of the House, I can say on good authority that we've not completed the process. So the public needs to know this so that a certain impression is not created out there that Parliament has transmitted the bill to the presidency and all. Nothing has moved to the presidency. In fact, Mr. Speaker is yet to receive the authenticated bill. The clerk to Parliament himself has not yet seen it. The drafting department is still compiling. I have been chasing it myself, and they say it requires some time because a lot of changes were done. And as a leader of the House, I don't have the draft bill, the compiled draft bill. So I just wanted to put this thing in proper perspective for our guidance. When all is done, I believe that you'll be informed. But I repeat that the drafting department of Parliament is still in the process of compiling the bill. And if I say they are compiling the bill, I'm basically saying that they are putting together all the amendments, seeing to it that the I's are dotted, the commas are there, the legal language is properly put in for us to know that indeed this is the state of the bill.
Quickly, so we know, yes, the bill hasn't been transmitted to the president just yet. Do we have any timelines when this will be done from Parliament?
The expectation of the sponsors is that this should be done as fast as possible. Some of them tell me that when the e-levy bill was passed by the House, it took just 24 hours for the president to get it. And I think this is also a very important bill that must get to the desk of the president so that the 7 days constitutional test will kick in and the 14 days will also kick in. That is to say, if the president decides not to sign it. So they expect that by the end of this week, the amendments that were passed by the House will all be incorporated and be sent to the desk of the president. However, if you listen to Alexander Afenyo-Markin, he says the bill is a laborious one. He does not expect it in the next few days. And so we do not have any clear timelines yet. The clerk is yet to speak to the specifics of this. But the sponsors expect that this will be done in a week, while Alexander Afenyo-Markin thinks that is too ambitious.
Quickly stay with me because there has been a bit more on this in Parliament, especially on the back of the revelations that the Finance Ministry has advised the presidency on how to approach signing this particular bill once it gets to the president's desk. And the Finance Ministry, after a meeting with the BOG, the GRA, and other key institutions, did advise the president that it is going to have significant economic implications for us if we go ahead and sign it in its current state. And I want to go through a few of the key points that the Finance Ministry highlighted in this circular. And this isn't the press statement. It's a circular that was put together to catalog what the potential impact could be for the president's own consideration. One is that the expected $300 million financing from the first Ghana Resilient Recovery Development Policy. This is under the World Bank. The Finance Ministry expects that will be affected. Secondly, they talk about the second Ghana Resilient Recovery Development Policy operation, again, to support the budget, will also be affected. And why is this important? This is a deal that we signed with the World Bank just in January, to be very specific, on 23rd January. And it's supposed to come in 3 tranches, $300 million each, part of a broad World Bank engagement for crisis response and resilience in Ghana. Its objectives are threefold. 1, restore fiscal sustainability, support financial sector stability and private sector development, improve energy sector financial discipline, and strengthen social and climate resilience. So that for the Finance Ministry is important and likely to be affected. Now, they go on to also specify, as you know, the Financial Sector Stability Fund is something the banks are looking forward to on the back of the DDEP.
Yeah.
Now, that too, the Finance Ministry says, having considered the potential impact, that also could be affected. And in other words, 250 million may not come. Kofi with the research desk is with me. That's not all, right? A total of 3.8 billion at stake here.
So the Ministry of Finance is saying that Ghana is likely to lose about $3.8 billion in World Bank financing over the next 5 to 6 years, Evans. So for 2024, Ghana will lose about 600 million in budget support and 250 million for the financing of the the Financial Stability Fund. This will negate or negatively impact on Ghana's foreign exchange reserves and exchange rate stability, as these inflows are expected to shock the country's reserve position. And you know that the 250 million inflow is actually tied to the IMF program that we are currently under, Evans.
Specifically on the IMF program, though, the ministry, while acknowledging that there isn't a direct conditionality in the IMF program relating to the passage of the bill. However, they talk about the principles that the IMF program is based on, the principles on predicated on financing from the World Bank, but also the IMF on inclusion, but also issues about non-discrimination is also there. And they believe that if this is not managed properly, it could come back to hurt us. We've seen the IMF say they're watching Ghana very closely on the back of the passage of this particular bill.
And if you look at the wording, they could not quantify the magnitude that we will be losing as a result of the IMF negotiation, but they were able to do that for the World Bank. So when it comes to the IMF, they were really careful or not to quote a certain figure, because I'm sure they were not so sure how much we are going to lose. But if you look at the World Bank, they are estimating around $4 billion.
But they have recommendations to the president. It says at the presidency, they are asking for some structured engagements with local conservative forces, such as religious bodies. And we'll be hearing from the religious bodies pretty shortly, because that's the finance ministry's advice to the presidency on how to approach this particular matter. But the intention of that advice, in other words, when you engage, what should you be looking for? What's the outcome? What outcome should you be anticipating? The finance ministry says they want the presidency to engage these faith-based organizations so that they can appreciate the economic implications of the passage of the anti-LGBTQ bill, and to build a stronger coalition and a framework for supporting key development initiatives that are likely to be affected. And so that's the intention for engaging. They also talk about effective engagement with conservative countries, including the Arab countries and China, because this is a place you can go to get funding to plug the gaps that will emerge if indeed you lose the World Bank support that they've articulated and listed. Then they also ask the president to also, defer, and I want to quote here, defer assenting to the bill until the court rules on the legal issues tabled by key national stakeholders. And as you've heard there, Afenyo Marking making the point already.
Very clear.
Already encouraging somebody to go to the Supreme Court and challenge the bill as it currently is and drafted, waiting to be transmitted to the president. The ministry itself, at this level, says they're doing a few things.
So they also have a charge to keep. They said the ministry will continue to engage with the IMF on the alternative credit sources of funding that will plug the financing gap. So the GRA to embark on a vigorous revenue mobilization drive, focusing on implementation of approved measures as well as compliance. And they also talk about the consideration of possible expenditure rationalization to accommodate the shock from the potential withdrawal of resources. And the last one is that they are going to leverage on the Ghana Beyond Aid principles and change the structure of the country's resource mobilization. And they say they must improve our domestic resource mobilization efforts by working towards our medium-term tax revenue to GDP target of 17%, 70 to 80%. Currently, they are doing around 13%, and eventually wean ourselves off the unsustainable dependency on the development assistance.
Now, we'll go to Parliament for reactions pretty shortly, but let's put this in context. The potential damage that this could cause the economy, as enumerated by the Finance Ministry, it's predicated on the IMF program, because even the World Bank disbursements are predicated on conditioned on the IMF, the success of the IMF program. But we have been digging around, right? We have found there are many other countries currently under IMF programs with similar legislation criminalizing, homosexuality. What has been the story there in terms of how the IMF has approached these countries?
Well, Evans, let's start with a perfect example, Zambia, because we all did debt restructuring. So Zambia has a law against LGBTQ activities, and it started in 2005, tightened in 2023, and you could go, have life imprisonment if you engage in some of these activities. Zambia is currently under an IMF program of $1.3 billion, which started in 2022 August, and they've been able to, get their second tranche in December. That was when they had their last money. They've been able to cash in $561 million from the IMF. So even though they have laws against LGBTQ activities, they've been able to sail through their IMF program. Another example is Zambia, Kenya. They started in 2003, and you know that a Supreme Court ruling in February 2023 said the Constitution barred discrimination based on sex, and this was heavily criticized by members of parliament and even the president. You could go to prison for 14 years in Kenya if you engage in some of these activities, but they are also currently under an IMF program worth $4.4 billion. They started in April 2021. They've enjoyed so far $2.6 billion in terms of disbursement. It's been smooth. There's no condition with respect to LGBTQ activities. There's also Senegal, Evans. They started in 1966. And according to them, there was actually a bill in Parliament to toughen the already strict anti-LGBTQ law in Parliament. But in fact, in January 2022, the lawmakers decided not to pass a draft bill that sought to, strengthen the already severe laws against the same-sex marriage. They are also under an IMF program worth $1.5 billion. They've been able to enjoy $279 million from the.
But at least they held back from passing the bill that would have strengthened it. I want to go to Parliament now. Quick, today, on the back of this circular becoming public knowledge, we'll be getting some reactions, strong reactions from the minority side.
Yes, Evans. In fact, the minority MPs say they are furious that the finance ministry will want to put a few dollars ahead of Ghana's cultural values, ahead of Ghana's values that are imbibed in the bill that was passed by the House. In fact, Alhaji Abia Hussein even goes ahead to suggest that perhaps people must pour out on the streets to show that they are against any such views. Let's listen to them.
Without any iota of doubt, it's an insult to the good people of this country to say that Ghana, as a sovereign country, as a sovereign independent country, must subsume the rights, interests, and aspirations of people to the altar of the interests and beliefs and values of external bodies like the IMF, World Bank, and WHO. So the interest of the World Bank, IMF, is more than that of Ghanaians. It's not worth protecting, but what is worth protecting is the interests and aspirations of the IMF. The streets must be flooded. Everybody must be prepared on this matter. To come onto the streets, thousands and millions of people must be prepared to flood the streets on this matter to protect our independence and sovereignty.
The flag bearer of the MPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, to speak on this matter. The former president, John Dramani Mahama, and the candidate for the NDC has spoken, and he has made his position clear. Are you saying that when he comes to power, he will need foreign aid? He's aware of the implications, but he has juxtaposed the harm that this will cause us vis-a-vis the income or the wealth that we are going to get from foreign aid. And that's how we have to look at it. That's the perspective in which we have to look at it. It's so shameful, and I'm a very sad person today.
It is important that we recognize that these funds, in most cases, are loans anyway. The IMF, the World Bank, hardly, give us any grants. These are loans. And so it is not a one-way street. It is a mutually beneficial relationship that we have built over the years together. And we, as a people, have come together to pass this law to reflect our family values and to protect same.
Reactions there from Parliament on the back of that circular that we now know the Finance Ministry drafted for the President's own consideration. And in there, as part of the recommendations to deal with this, yes, they say the Presidency should not assent to the bill just yet. They should wait out and see how this pans out if it goes to court. We've heard today the Majority Leader making the point that encouraging people to go to the Supreme Court and challenge this bill as it stands. But another recommendation in there is for the Presidency to engage with conservative forces such as religious bodies, faith-based organizations to communicate the economic implications of the passage of this particular bill. And I want to bring in right now the Very Reverend Father Clement Kwesi Ajay. He's the Secretary General of the National Catholic Secretariat and Ghana and the Catholic Bishops Conference. Joins us right now. Very Reverend, thanks for your time here on Top Story.
Yes.
Great to have you. The Finance Ministry is very clear that we stand to lose some $3.8 billion if we go ahead, the President assents to this and it becomes law. They want the Presidency to engage yourselves on this matter so you can understand the economic implications. Knowing, now quantifying the implications, are you still in favor of this being assented to the way it currently is with a custodial sentence for people who are found guilty?
Thank you very much. This financial assistance, is it a grant or a loan? In fact, when I follow the discussions going on, what I get is that because Ghanaians are poor, Ghana is poor, and they are going out for financial assistance, you want to just strangle us. Something we don't want as Ghanaians. You want us to use your money to just prevent us from doing what we want, what our people want. LGBTQ, we don't want it. Ghanaians don't want it. Majority says we don't want it. About 98.5%. We don't want it.
And we are, because we don't have the money, we are going for assistance. We say if you could get it. Is it fair? Is it what the UN is actually standing for? I don't think so. I don't think so. Yes, we are ready to engage government to express certain things to us. We also put forward our ideas and our understanding. But I still hold that poverty should not be used to let somebody succumb to the will of the other. That's what I have to say. But the church is always ready
to engage. But the reality, though, is the economy is currently in crisis. We are currently on an IMF program. The IMF says you're watching us very closely. The Finance Ministry, together with the Bank of Ghana, is advising that the potential loss to this economy will be devastating. I mean, we can't survive without the 3.8 billion that they quantify, can we? And that will have real impact on the lives of the people that you lead in the church, for example.
I mean, is Ghana the only country undergoing the IMF program? Other countries also have this LGBT laws and so on. And have an IMF and the World Bank refuse to accept? I think probably they are taking it too far. And I don't think so. I don't think because we have agreed to ban LGBTQ practices and so on. No nation, I mean the UN, IMF and the World Bank will not help us. I don't think so. Maybe they are using to terrify us, to put fear in us. I don't think so.
So you still stand by your original position that now that the bill has been passed, the president must assent to it, regardless of.
Sure.
What about the second argument, which is that yes, but what about the custodial part of the bill, that you should throw people in jail just because they have a sexual preference that you believe is against our values?
Those are the issues that we must look at, and not the financial matter bringing in offense. Yes, but that's what they've been doing. And then I know that the bill is the form at which it went into Parliament is not the same. Yes, people, opinions, and so on. We can still discuss it. Those kind of things. Whether somebody should be jailed, or because what are you looking for? Deterrent or informative? You see, those are the things we can debate. But it doesn't mean that, in fact, the LGBTQ plus how do you call it, activities we should support. No. But the sentence can be looked at again. That's why I don't think the church is against it. Because it's about the human person. It's about our brother. It's about our sister, who we think is not following the rules, the order of Ghanaians for the Ghanaians. So you can look at that. But that doesn't mean that we are for it. No, we are against it. But how do we treat the person?
So just to be clear, the church is in favor of scrapping the custodial sentence section in the law?
It is possible. Because what we want is the human person to change from his ways. You see? From his ways. But if it comes to the point that that's the only way, fine. But if they can also remove the custodial sentence, fine. If only to help. Because we are not just after punishing the person. We want the person to be punished and to be reformed. So you have to look at all these kind of things. All these things. But getting our brother back is more important for the church.
Finally, the Finance Ministry's advice to the president is that he should not assent to the bill just yet. What do you say to that?
If the president accepts, or the finance minister, if the president accepts the advice of the finance ministry, that's what you're saying. Hello?
Yes. If the president decides to accept it, that's advice to the president.
And fails to assent. Yeah. For that, the church cannot do anything. But we will speak. And we continue speaking against what we think is wrong. In fact, I know I'm not the bishop, but I know the bishops' conference will speak against it if the president refuses to sign. And you know the implications for him and his party. You know.
What implications? What implications are you referring to?
Elections, voting. This should not be hidden. People. We work in the villages. People are listening. he can bring back the bill to Parliament with good reasons for them to look at it again. But I don't think he can just say, I will not sign.
You say elections. You say elections voting. To be clear, as leaders of the church, you ask the members not to vote for his party, the MPP.
The church doesn't do that. It doesn't get into elections in terms of telling them what to do or not to do. We advise. But the people themselves, because you are in villages, you are in cities, you are in towns, the church is almost everywhere. You know their minds. And they themselves know. Right? If the president fails to sign, you may know the consequence.
They will not get the votes of vast majority of your members.
I'm sure.
But will you actively, in your church and using your pulpit, speak against it?
Speak against
his decision if he decides to take the advice not to assent, which obviously will influence people's decisions in the polling booth.
Position. You know, from the beginning of this bill, the church has been part of the process. We gave our opinions, everything to Parliamentary, the committee that worked on it, and we still continue to speak on it. So when he fails to assent, we shall speak. The church will speak. The church will give its opinion of what he has done.
Most Reverend, thank you very much. That's the very Reverend Father Clement Kwesi Adjei, the Secretary General of the National Catholic Secretariat, the Ghana Catholic Bishops Conference there. And there's more on this developing story, as you may know. It's a major story developing all the time today. The Majority Leader has been addressing a news conference asking that this bill be challenged at the Supreme Court. It's coming on the day when we also got wind of this circular put together by the Finance Ministry working with the Central Bank and the GRA to advise the president on the potential economic implications. There is more to this. We'll be hearing from the sponsors of the bill. Roxy Nelson Dafiamekwa will join us on the back of the assertions by the Majority Leader that the constitutional questions that he's raised today, encouraging anybody to go out there and challenge it. We'll also hear from Professor Bokwing, an economist, on the subject raised by the Finance Ministry on the potential economic consequences for Ghana. You heard us analyze already. If you put in the context of what else is happening on the continent for African countries who are already taking this step and that IMF program, you can make up your own mind as you may. Newsnight starts right now as we begin to unpack a bit more of what has been unfolding following the passage of the anti-LGBTQ bill.
Many thanks for joining us here on Newsnight. In the next 60 minutes, religious bodies threaten to punish the governing NPP in the upcoming presidential elections if President Akufo-Addo bows to pressure from his finance ministry and pro-gay groups and refuses to assent to the proper human, sexual and family values bill passed by Parliament. Also in this edition.
Sometimes they'll give you Gary, don't give you beans. They'll give you beans, they don't give you the Gary. So a school that is not having even 900 students is supposed to have 3 bags a day.
And as we warm up to the premiering of Joy News' latest expose, Empty Plates, the free SHS promise, tonight we focus on students of Malco Girls Senior High School as they raise concerns about the quality of food served under the free SHS program, as they say there is no variety in the meals they are fed with.
Because something counts your blessing, the count your blessing is opposite. The way it is, it's not good at all. And we have something, we don't have fish, egg, nothing. Sometimes you be eating and see stones, and things in there. Sometimes you can be eating bamboo for a man.
We'll get to hear from some parents who are also unleashing their anger on the Ministry of Education, expressing disgust at not just the quality but the quantity of meals served their children.
Every week you have to send food to your children, and you have to find a teacher or somebody who lives in the school to cook for your child.
When media bring out a report, you are coming out that you have gone to do investigation. In which school?
Also, minority are tearing into government for allegedly purchasing past questions for students ahead of the 2020 and 2021 WASSCE at a cost of more than 60 million cedis through sole sourcing.
The government has spent 68.5 million Ghana cedis in 2 years in making photocopies of examination question papers for our WASSCE candidates.
And in business, Ghana Private Road Transport Union denies plans to increase fares, insisting it is yet to begin formal engagement with government for plan adjustments.
And in sports, prepare to pay between 50 to 1,000 Ghana cedis for tickets to the African Games. We'll tell you more from the Sports Minister's press briefing today ahead of the opening ceremony on Friday.
And much later, Upper East Regional Security Council adequately prepared to counter potential terror threats from the Sahel as terrorists kill 170 people in a village execution in Burkina Faso.
We have always been making sure our borders are very safe in terms of people crossing into our territory. We say that the government has prepared enough for us to be able to withstand some of these atrocities.
You want to stay for these and more here on Newsnight. You can join us with your thoughts and your comments via WhatsApp 055-11-11997. We are live on Facebook, X Spaces, and myjoyonline.com. I am MFA Apau.
And my name is Evans Mensah. We start tonight with this unfolding story, always developing MFA since the passage last week Wednesday surrounding the LGBTQ bill that has been passed, the Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill. Today, in the last couple of hours, the Majority Leader has been addressing a press conference in which he called on people, including the media, to go to the Supreme Court and challenge that particular bill. And we know also tonight that the bill is yet to get to the President because the process is in Parliament, yet to complete. The clerk will do so. The timeline, we understand, possibly by the end of the week, but it's not gone just yet. And just before we came on Newsnight, we heard also from the religious community.
Yes. Conference, and they are threatening to punish the governing NPP in the upcoming presidential elections if President Akufo-Addo bows to the pressure, the latest pressure from the Finance Ministry. We'll also be hearing from pro-gay groups, Shraj also, if they refuses to assent to the Proper Human Sexual and Family Values Bill passed by Parliament.
Because in this advice that we've now seen that the Finance Minister has, Ministry has given to the presidency on this, as far as it relates to potential economic impact, they say, quote, His Excellency the President may have to defer assenting to the bill until the court rules on the legal issues tabled by the key national stakeholders, CSOs and Shraj. Now, we've heard from the Catholic Bishops' Conference categorical that if the President takes this advice, there will be political consequences at the polls, and that the President can be sure of that. I want to bring in one of the sponsors of the bill, lawyer himself, Member of Parliament, Roxing Nelson Dafiamekwa, joins us right now on the telephone line. Thank you, Roxing, and thank you for staying on the line with us as we begin to unpack a few more of the issues unfolding tonight, Roxing.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to have joined you.
We'll also be joined by Professor Bokbing, who is also joining us with his thoughts on the Finance Ministry's position. But Roxy, let me start with you. Your colleague and leader in Parliament, the Majority Leader, has been addressed in news conference. It's clear that this matter needs to be interrogated at the Supreme Court. He's asking anybody who care to listen to go to the Supreme Court. You're not opposed to that, are you? I mean, this is something that is healthy for our democracy.
Of course, Evans, I'll be the last person to oppose anybody seeking the constitutionality or otherwise of this law. And so if the call is being made for anybody to proceed to the Supreme Court, it's all good. But the Majority Leader is my classmate. We studied together, we entered law school together, completed together, and have been in practice before we came to Parliament. He knows that a law until assented to is no law. And so if he's canvassing for people to go to court, it amounts to premature ejaculation. He should wait. Let the law be assented to, and then we'll take care from there.
I mean, there's a school of thought, there's a legal school of thought that says that currently we have a product from Parliament. The Parliament has passed this bill, and because Parliament has passed this bill and you have this legal product, yes, it's not been formally consummated yet because the President hasn't signed it, but that in itself can be subject of a court action. Well, what's your take on that legally?
There's no law that backs this proposition. The law is very clear. The bill is still in the state that it is, to the extent that it's not been assented by the President to become a law. It remains a declaration of intention by Parliament. So you cannot challenge a declaration of intention in a court of law. Your course of action cannot ride upon a declaration of intention. So that kind of school of thought is faulty. It's built on a faulty premise. I am ready to file amicus in respect of anybody who go to challenge this matter. But I'm saying that let the law be assented to, given effect as law properly so called. Then the validity in terms of its constitutionality can be challenged. But until we get there, any call for any person to proceed to the Supreme Court is premature. Indeed, let me place it on record that last year, some persons actually proceed to the Supreme Court. You recall a group of CEOs who went to the Supreme Court to challenge this bill, but they were told that the bill cannot be challenged unless it becomes law.
Because that time it had not been passed.
Sorry?
That time it hasn't been passed. Now you've passed it.
No, passing means until it becomes law. So they were told that they cannot come to the Supreme Court to challenge the validity of a bill before Parliament. It's no law. A bill before Parliament is a declaration of intention. It can be abandoned. So to that extent, you have no cause of action. So actually people went to court. When we invited memoranda, about 200 memoranda on the matter. So we know that people are lying in wait to go to court when this becomes law properly so called.
Now, to the substance of the issues that led the majority leader to say somebody to go to court, he still hammers on the point of custodial sentence in there.
Yeah.
We just listened to the Catholic Bishops' Conference, the very Reverend Father Clement Kwesi AJ.
Yeah.
They support this bill wholeheartedly, except that he says tonight that when it comes to the subject of custodial sentencing, they are ready to soften their stance on it, that they believe something can be done about that, and that they are willing to support a review. What do you say to that?
Now, we have just passed the law. It's not being assented. It's not being implemented. Afenyo raised these matters on the floor, and he was defeated. His reasons underpinning these propositions and amendments were defeated. One, we seek to penalize certain conduct. And in providing the penal provision for such prescribed conduct, we've added custodial sentence. Why? Because where somebody engages in a repeat conduct, if you say that we shouldn't impose a custodial sentence, and that is only the non-custodial, somebody can decide to engage in the conduct. He or she goes back to the court. The court is constrained in imposing only a fine. So we have made several other provisions where the court has the option to impose a fine or a custodial sentence or both. So it is not true that we have looked at only custodial sentence and there's no option for a fine. It's only in respect of one or two offenses. In the other issue that they raised about the exercise of editorial discretion by media houses, persons are still reading the original bill as it came to Parliament. They've not affected their mind to the bill as has been presently passed by Parliament. It's gone through a lot of amendments. So, for instance, in respect of Section 10 and 11 of the law, we have subjected that to the provisions of the Constitution. So that, for instance, you can run a program and seek views on the matter. There's no menstrual, there's no ill motive that you'll be promoting the gayism in this country. So we cannot prescribe that. That right is sacrosanct. It's in the Constitution. So we cannot enact a law to take that away from you. But they've not adverted their mind to it, and they're still saying that even advocacy, no. If you do willful advocacy to promote this in this country, we prescribe that. The media houses have the right to look at the pros and cons and by way of educating the public about the dangers of engaging in this. You can only look at the dangers if you hear from those who are in it or who are.
But on the substantive matter of the custodial sentence, do I hear you say that once it's passed, once it's assented to and it becomes law, and if somebody challenges and it comes back, you are willing to take a second look, considering the position of the Catholic Bishops' Conference?
Yes, in fact, indeed, in the Constitution makes provision for even the president. If the president has reservations regarding certain provisions of the law mandates him to make further amendments and subject that to consultation with the Council of State, so that it will be remitted to Parliament for Parliament to consider it. But people are not reading.
As a sponsor of the bill, as a sponsor.
Hold on, Evans, let me finish. The Constitution itself makes provision for this. That where the president, in being asked to assent to a bill that has been passed by Parliament, has other further views on portions of that legislation, he is mandated in law to make those amendments.
And as a sponsor of the bill, if that comes, you willing to support it?
Why not? No, it's not as if as a sponsor I have an option. The Constitution says that.
No, I'm talking about the specific. I'm talking about the specifics.
When the president does that,
I'm talking about the specifics.
We must consider it.
Yeah, I'm talking about the specific issue relating to custodial sentencing. That take it off the table. You're willing to support scrapping that clause in that.
If I may respond. So my point is that if the issue of custodial sentence is what the president feels strongly about at this stage, he's mandated in the Constitution to make.
Yeah, you've made that point, but I'm asking specifically you as a sponsor. If that comes, assuming it comes, would you support would you consider taking that out of the law?
I am a member of the House, so we'll consider it.
Okay. Roxy, thank you very much. I want to quickly bring in Professor Bokwing into the conversation regarding the economic impact that the Finance Ministry's memo had highlighted to the President. Also joining me right now to explore that a bit more because of the potential for Western countries to impose sanctions on us using the aid route now as a weapon line for us. What really does international law say about this? Can they do so? We'll talk to a constitutional lawyer pretty shortly. But Prof, let me bring you in very quickly into this conversation. You've monitored the developments over the period, considering the Finance Minister's position on this $3.8 billion dollars they say we are risking here if we go ahead, sign this into law. Knowing where you stand right now, can this economy survive with that significant loss if indeed we go ahead to sign? And first of all, do you really believe the position of the Finance Ministry that this is potentially something that we could lose? Hello, Prof. Bokwing? Hello, Prof. Okay, we may have lost him there, but I have with me on the line Professor PJ Tuyan, who's also joining us on this conversation. And Prof, thanks for your time here on Newsnight.
My pleasure.
Great to have you. So we've seen the Finance Ministry's position on this, the potential economic implications. We've heard from the IMF say they're watching us very closely. Can they really do this if indeed we go ahead and sign? Can they use the aid route to sanction us, if you may, because we've gone ahead to sign this bill into law?
Yes, they've done it before, and so it's likely they will ensure that they go through with the threats that they have issued, if I can call it so, and implement it. However, my concern is that there has been a resolution by the Human Rights Council of the UN, and it states clearly that such an attempt is clearly in violation of the sovereignty of a particular country. So it is important that we review that decision and question it so that when countries are making such laws dealing with LGBTQ, we will know where to draw the line and ensure that this Human Rights Council resolution is respected.
I guess then the ball falls squarely within the court of Ghana, does it not? I mean, if this Human Rights Council resolution is there, that gives us an avenue to fight back, to challenge this threat.
Well, I don't know if it will mean going to court or whether the court can make a decision on that. But the point is clear that the resolution says that it deplores the use of external pressure and coercive measures against states, particularly developing countries, through the use of economic sanctions or application of conditionality to official aid assistance and so on. So that means that if this matter is to be addressed in a way that will ensure that there is no interference in the internal affairs of the state, we have to look at two things. The resolution also calls for the fact that developing countries have certain leeway in terms of their cultural circumstances, historical circumstances, religious circumstances, and so on, to determine how they deal with the LGBTQ issue. However, at the same time, there is a minimum threshold where there is a binding obligation on all states to ensure that any law that is passed meets the minimum human rights threshold. And if you examine the current bill which has been passed by Parliament, it doesn't meet that cut. However, the resolution does not lie in IMF and the World Bank issuing those threats and trying to cut aid for Ghana as a way to compel Ghana to abide by these international commitments which lie in the Human Rights Council resolution. So it is important that when these issues come up, every country as a member of the UN, we submit periodic reports to the Human Rights Council for review. And when it so comes, these issues are addressed. It's one of the issues we address. And in fact, not long ago, Ghana had the opportunity to present this report before the Human Rights Council. And some of these issues actually came up. And that was before we had passed this law.
Prof, thank you very much. And that's Professor Pejutia there giving us his thoughts on this. On the back of that, he cites the Human Rights Council's resolution in 2016, indicating that Western states cannot impose economic sanctions on countries simply because they adopt anti-LGBTQ legislation that criminalizes the act of homosexuality. Where do you stand on this subject? Is it worth the cost?
3.8 billion.
The cost, 3.8 billion. Now we know the cost. The cost of the economy is 3.8 billion. Is it worth it all? Give me your thoughts on this. 055-1111-997.
Well, let's do some other stories now. And there's a lot of engagement on this particular story, all the way from top story up until now, via WhatsApp consoles 055-1111-997. But we'll turn our attention to education now. We are building up towards our Joy News' latest expose, Empty Plate, the Free SHS Promise. And tonight, students of Malco Girls Senior High School have raised concerns over the quality of food they are served under the Free SHS feeding program. Well, some of the concerns the students raise include lack of balanced diet, repeated type of meal, and weevil-infested food, amongst others. The reactions are coming in on the back of the release of the trailer of the latest Joy News investigative piece titled Empty Plate, the Free SHS Promise, which reveals an acute shortage of some food items in many senior high schools across the country. We'll get to hear from some of the students shortly, but first, here are excerpts of that investigative report.
Sometimes they'll give you Gary, don't give you beans. They'll give you beans, they don't give you the Gary. So a school that is not having even 900 students is supposed to have 3 bags a day to feed 900 students.
Every night, these children go to bed burdened with thoughts about what they will eat when they wake up to a new day.
It's all about the quantity, and then the jollof too quantity, very small. And then the amount of sauce they serve per table, they are sitting with it. Very small, very small. Some people don't even get sometimes.
It is no fault of theirs that the government that promised their parents free education is unable to provide enough food to feed their youthful appetites.
And sometimes kinky. The kinky they give us stew or shit with blowfish.
Empty Plate, the Free SHS Promise, coming soon on Joy News.
And that's just the promo, or should I say the trailer, towards that particular expose. And it's already generating a lot of talk, and we had reactions from the Education Ministry already just on that promo. We can now listen to Malco Girl students who say they are fed weevil-infested food, among several other concerns.
The food we eat, because something counts your blessing, and the count your blessing is opposite. The way it is, it's not good at all. And we have something, gas and rice. The way the rice is, it's not nice at all. It's not nice.
They claim they give you guys 3 square meal every day. Do you get it? 3 meals?
Yes.
Morning, afternoon, evening?
Yes.
You get them?
Yes.
Do you get a balanced diet of the food?
We don't have fish, egg, nothing. Nothing like protein inside. Only flour mixed with oil. Nothing. We don't get breakfast. Breakfast is not good. We don't have anything like nothing. There's no sugar, milk. Nothing is packed.
Oh, okay.
So the meal is not balanced.
So you have to bring your sugar?
Yes, you need to bring your sugar to the dining room.
And your milk and your bread?
Yes.
Bread too?
Sometimes they give us bread, yes.
Well, sometimes you'll be eating stones, and things in the food. And sometimes the food
is it a balanced diet?
It's balanced diet. Sometimes you can be eating banku for a month. Yes, afternoon and evening, every day. Afternoon, evening. For the past 3 weeks, I've been eating rice till now. Yes, rice.
Really?
Just rice without nothing.
Rice and gas. Just rice?
Rice and gas. The gas is mixture of,
Do you get fish or meat or something?
Nothing like
egg? No protein.
Nothing.
And then the pouring they give us to like no milk. Sometimes the milk one thing they'll have to share it with 10 pantries. One tin milk will pour it like a drop. What 10 pantries. Yeah. And then the beans to provide your own gari. And the beans to like
sometimes you get to the hall, they will tell you there is no food, so go and depend on your troubles food.
Well, some students of Malco Girls Senior High School in Ho, or some parents have also wading in the discussion, unleashing their anger at the Ministry of Education, expressing concerns over the development as they demand an immediate action to rectify the situation.
Every week you have to send food to your children, and you have to find a teacher or somebody who lives in the school to cook for your child at your own expense. And they are sitting here telling us what? You look at the children when they come back from school, how lean they have grown. It's like we are punishing them just because of politics.
When media bring out a report, you are coming out that you have gone to do investigation. In which school? We pay so much money in feeding our children every day.
Every week, I have to send him close to 100 CDs to supplement the food he takes from the dining hall. And they tell you that you are told to come with your own bread and sugar and sometimes milk. The situation is very bad.
What is the essence of this free education?
Which school is your child in?
Girls.
What's the situation there?
Very bad. Look, if you ask her now, she can't go to toilet because there's no balanced diet.
But I think there's no perfect sense in this way. And I think we have to slow down a bit for the government because all over the world there's no perfect system.
And there are teachers in the campus of schools who are taking advantage of this and they are cooking what the children call illegal food. So if somebody sits here in Accra and tell you that the children are being fed well, I think it is so crazy that they shouldn't get us annoyed.
Well, some parents who are phoning into the Super Morning Show today are raising concerns about the situation in the senior high schools. Well, before the airing of the expose, I've been telling you that there have been reactions from the Education Ministry following that release of the 1-minute promo. We can listen to the Education Ministry's PRO, Kwesi Kwarteng.
You understand that, for instance, I was in Greater Accra. At every point, the schools buffer stock have to send about 18 food items, of course, coupled with the 30% of perishables that we pay to the schools. In terms of the perishables, the payment is up to date. No school is owed any arrears. But for instance, out of the 18 food items in Greater Accra, we realize that something like peanut, which is quite seasonal, and because we are in the lean season, are not in most of the schools. So what happens is that when, for instance, going by their own menu, it's time to take peanut, they replace with another food item. But I mean, it's occasioned by the fact that we are in the lean season and it's not there.
The lack of protein in these meals. So they are eating kenke without fish. They are eating rice without eggs or even fish or meat. Even parents substituting.
These concerns are valid, but I mean, some way, somehow, is the projection is that before free SHS, the story was very different from this. You see, I mean, for me, I don't know what you term as protein because if students eat beans.
So what we are hearing is that they've been eating rice throughout, like consistently for a month, sometimes the whole term. They eat kenke, banku. We are not hearing beans. The beans is hardly do they come by that. And they don't have proteins like eggs, fish to accompany their meals.
Except to say your own documentary said that they are only giving beans without gari. So I find it very surprising.
In some cases, I'm not saying they are not giving beans. In some cases.
I mean, for us, when we went to the schools, the reverse is, however, true in our case, because
that's the PRO for the Education Ministry, Kwesi Kwarteng, the interacted with my colleague Mamiesi Nyamiche Thompson. Well, I'm at this point, we all can't wait for that documentary to be aired as the empty plates, the free SHS promise. And we've brought in our channel manager for Joy News, Kweku Wusupepra, to tell us about this particular program or the documentary that we put together. First, let's talk about how far-reaching this investigation to the complaints we've had over the feeding challenges in the various schools.
Coverage-wise, we went to every part of the country. This is pure and proper public interest journalism. It's journalism that matters to the people. And so you cannot afford to not make the sample size very good and comprehensive. So we went to everywhere that matters to the point of saturation. Okay. Saturation is when the evidence you are gathering begins to repeat, and then you cut off. So it goes as far as you can imagine, to as many schools as you can think of, and the evidence is very clear and deep. And for every child that is hungry in a school, there are two parents. There's a niece, there's an uncle, there's a brother. This is incontrovertible evidence that is hard to fight or deny.
We'll see how it goes. But let's talk about the highlights, though, of the evidences that we gathered from this investigation.
So just one of it. You have in one of the schools a student standing before the dining hall prefect, standing before the PS and saying to them that our headmaster has traveled to Accra. He is going to look for food for us. All the food that is left in our pantry or the kitchen is gari and beans. So from now till the end of this term, we are going to eat gari and beans. And let's pray that the headmaster returns with food.
Well, the Education Ministry, they put out a statement. Now, if you go to Facebook, their own Facebook page, underneath that particular post, there were many comments there. I want to read a few. Charles Barbing says, Ministry of Education, we all know there are issues with food in SHS. People who don't have anyone at SHS will believe this letter and what it contains. Some of us are directly involved in the kids' welfare, so we know there is inadequate food for the children. Be truthful to yourself, Ministry of Education. Godfrey then comes and says, list the names of those schools you visited. If what you are saying is true, you can't deceive anybody. And White says, why are leaders in this part of the world allergic to truth? The fact is clear, but still denying. Philip says, I know this will definitely come from Kwesi Kwarteng. He shouldn't sit in his one corner and be tickling himself and laugh. He says a lot of SHSs are finding it difficult to feed their students due to inadequate food. Some parents pay amounts ranging between 300 and 400 cedis to support their ward school. We have students in schools like Evans Mensah and the likes who complain about food problems. The sad thing is that headmasters fear sabotaging the government and therefore fear to speak the truth. So that's, in essence, just a sample of the views on the timeline of the Ministry of Information after they put up this statement.
And so I'm sure at this point we are wondering when exactly this full documentary, Empty Plates, the free SHS promise, when is it airing? Are you telling us?
It's Ghana month. Can I meet you back Accra?
Hi.
Yes, I brought a jaya. And you we are taking our time. We could actually release it today, but the discussions are interesting.
Yeah.
The ministry is trying to get food to the schools, and every day that we play the promo, more food is sent. All the better for the students. They can eat better from now. So let's just let them enjoy the food. As more food gets to the schools and the dining halls, our brothers and our daughters and our sisters get to eat better.
Yeah.
So very soon, the documentary will come out.
Thank you very much, Kwekwe Wusupripra. In the comments, are also pouring in, and this one says, Jonathan Kuntunsi says, the food given to our children at school is that bad. My twins at St. Rose's don't want to go back to school again because of the poor quality and quantity of food. I have spent all my money to get them nutritious provisions to enable them go to school this month. Now I don't have any money left for myself this month. What crime did we commit as Ghanaians? The free SHS, is that bad? Jonathan Kuntunsi sends that one.
And
I
this
have
is
one
St.
from
Rose's,
a teacher.
right? You think St. Rose's is one of the well-endowed schools, right?
Yeah. And this one also from an anonymous teacher in Cape Coast. He says, I'm a teacher in the SHS in the Central Region. I can tell you on authority that the food provided to students is of less quantity and quality. Look, if a class delays to go out of the classroom for breakfast or lunch, they will miss the meal. Even some of those who go don't get to eat. Thank you, he says, and that's from a teacher. I have many more. This one from Comrade Tamim Muisa. Okay, he's also talking about, says multimedia has unzipped the unzipped mouths of Ghanaians. The zipped mouth of Ghanaians, yes. Hashtag empty plates documentary. That's Tamimu sending us that one from Boko. And also this one, I have another one. A number of your messages also touching on the stories we've been talking about also on Top Story. And we'll get into most of these messages that you've sent us on this particular story. So the stories that we've done so far here from Top Story all the way to Newsnight.
And George Wafe is joining us right now with business. Hello, George.
Hi, interesting. Even at times when we're paying for feed those days, you know the challenge about having food and the timely release of supplies.
Did you have milk whilst you were in school?
Yes, we did that sometimes, you know.
Okay,
but even then, when we're paying, the challenges associated with supply of food and even good food in the dining halls. And what about now? Just like what's been said by others, those who can afford to pay, allow them to pay.
If there's a challenge, let's accept there's a challenge, and we see how we can fix the situation.
Kojo Youngson will say that why should his kids suffer for someone's, quote, comfortability of a policy or a program, you know, or not to be ashamed or to eat back his or her words. So those who can pay, let's allow them to pay.
What's the headlines, George, for business?
Well, Evans, coming up, the Ghana Private Road Transport Union denies increasing fares, insisting it is yet to begin formal negotiations with government following recent developments. And National Petroleum Authority justifies recent increases in margins and levies as it rejects arguments of being the main reason for the significant hikes in fuel prices at the pumps. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, Centers Tanks and Pepsodent Charcoal and Herbal.
Can you hear it? The freedom in our songs, the sound of liberty that rings from Kaswa to Karaga, from Tamale to Takoradi. It's in the pestles that pound from coast to coast. It's in the busy offices, the crowded streets, and the noisy schools. It's in the wisdom of our elders and in the laughter of our children. It's in seeing how far we've come and looking at how much we can grow. It's in knowing that still Ghana go be. Happy 67th Independence Day, Ghana. MTN.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kingdom Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom. And my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHF, Kumasi KNUST campus, UC KCC, Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Hello, Auntie Araba. Hey, Bugger, how are you doing today? I want to buy Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, but I don't have enough money. So what are you going to do? Can you give me the big size? You know, as for me, I'll pay the balance later.
Today, no credit. I haven't sold much this morning. If you don't have enough money for the big size, why don't you try the 120-gram pack?
There's a 120-gram pack? Introducing the new Pepsodent Cavity Fighter in 120-gram pack size. More affordable and convenient. Get yours today from any supermarket near you. Every smile matters. This advert is FDA approved.
Water is needed all day, all night. So, remember Syntex tank all day, all night. 7 years warranty. Select any color for free. In no de crack, in no de spoil. Call Accra on 0244 335 168. Kumasi 0505 555 666. Syntex tank. A strong, a tough. Water is needed all day, all night. So, remember Syntex tank all day, all night. 7 years warranty. Select any color for free. In no de crack, in no de spoil. Call Accra on 0244 335 168. Kumasi 0505 555 666. Syntex tank. A strong, a tough.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRT, says it hasn't sanctioned any increase in transport fares this week for its members. It follows reports that fares could go up by at least 30% this Thursday. There is more in this report.
Officials of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union have told Joy Business that they have actually kicked off the process of putting together the necessary data that will help with the negotiations. They maintain that it will be wrong for any interest group to go ahead and announce an increase in fares before the said negotiations are finalized with government. They have also informed Joy Business that their last round of negotiations with the government earlier this year for an increment was suspended because the Finance Ministry did not proceed with plans to enforce value-added tax on insurance products. The union, as the largest body for most of the commercial transport operators in the country, said consumers should disregard the said announcement. There are reports that the hands of commercial drivers have been strengthened more than ever to push for an increase in fares when they get to the negotiation table. This follows the significant increase in prices of petroleum products at the pumps and the full implementation of the emission tax for transport operators by the government. There are also reports that government through the Transport Ministry may want to delay any increment in transport fares because of the possible impact of the hike on the larger economy.
That is a business text report. Let's still stay on this issue because the Concerns Driver Union have argued that they will go ahead with their increment because previous engagement with government has failed to get the desired result. David Agbagbo is the public relations officer of the Concerned Drivers Union.
Our stand itself is to increase the transport fare because it is due for us to increase transport fare. That's our stand. The soon will be within this week because we are meeting with the regional executives, which we name is called NEC. The whole body is going to meet tomorrow. So after the meeting, we will come out with official press that will all come the day that we will take the transport fare. The meeting with government is so, I don't know how to put it. The meeting with government, they will just be postponing the whole thing. Tomorrow, the next day, we are doing this. We beg you, you keep on, we will do this, keep in touch, we will do this and that. Meanwhile, we are also suffering. We are running at loss as a business. Right? So what the regional executives are doing, we are in support of it. Let me be frank and honest with you. We are in support of it.
David Agbuado is the public relations officer of the Concerns Driver Union, insisting that on their part they will ask their members to increase transport fares. The National Petroleum Authority is rejecting an argument that a significant increase in fuel prices should be linked to the recent adjustments in margin. Prices of petroleum products have witnessed some significant increase since last Friday. However, some were blaming the authority for this increment, but the head of economic regulations, Abbas Tasunti, disagrees.
Even though we are concerned about price, we are also concerned about ensuring that there's sufficient distribution of the petroleum products. And without the margins being set at the right rate, we will not be able to move the products and there will be shortages. And I'm not sure we would want to have a discussion about shortages because of the dire consequence that would lead to. You remember MPA has in the past even reduced its margins before. If you take the bus margin, for example, the ministry directed us 2 years ago to reduce it from its level of 12 pesos 2 years ago, and it has remained that way until 16th February when it was restored to the 12 level, 12 pesos. So we have, even before this increment last window, we reduced the margins. So these margins are reduced when there's a need to reduce them, but we want to ensure availability of petroleum products.
Head of Economic Regulations at the National Petroleum Authority, Abbas Tasunti. Now, the Finance Ministry is asking government to consider expenditure cuts to help accommodate the expected resource withdrawals from donors. That is, if government goes ahead to pass or keep president to give his assent to the anti-LGBTQ bill. Now, this is more in the following report.
This is one of the several recommendations that the Finance Ministry is proposing in a circular to President Akufo-Addo seen by Joy Business. The circular says the impact on the economy, what can be done in terms of signing the bill, and alternatives available to the country. The Finance Ministry also argued that government should look at engaging with conservative countries like the Arab countries and China to assist the country with the funding gap. The ministry believes that government should consider leveraging on the Ghana Beyond Aid principles and change the structure of Ghana's resource mobilization. There are proposals to also improve the country's domestic resource mobilization efforts by working towards a medium tax revenue to GDP of almost 18%. The Finance Ministry strongly believes if these measures are implemented by government, it will go a long way to deal with the expected shocks should the president go ahead to sign the bill into law going forward.
And that's the business text report by the economist Professor Lord Mensah says he finds the Finance Ministry's submission very interesting.
Now we're looking at, first of all, I would say it's even a disrespect, for the Ministry of Finance to issue such statement. And then also for the Western, powers to coerce us to accept, this, not to assent this bill before, they can give us, what we deserve, or probably the freebies they've been given to us. As an African, this is a Ghana month, isn't it?
It is.
What identifies you as a Ghanaian? There are some core values we respect, and indirectly those values makes us rich. We don't have to, we don't need monetary, richness to be proud as an African. Let me put it this way. You see, the long-term cost for sacrificing our generations will be at a point in time where the country is importing huge sums of, adult diapers, right? For engaging in those acts. Those are the long-term.
And that is the economist Professor Lord Mensah. Now, the African Furniture, Light and Accessories Trade Exhibition organized by creator and interior designer Dali Mensah, which is currently underway, aims to address challenges faced by small and medium-scale producers in that marketing space. According to the interior designer Dali Mensah, the exhibition will bridge the gap between the producers and customers and also enhance their visibility on the market.
What we're trying to achieve is bringing the producers, small-scale producers, with accent pieces of furniture, which can be added to the normal settees and things, so that these people, we're bringing them together with purchasers. So we're bringing them under one roof, so that people who are interested in purchasing for their homes, offices, and hotels can come here, source for clients or for themselves, and buy.
Dali Mensah is a creator and an interior designer, and that's all for business on Newsnight. Back to you, Evans and MFA.
Thank you very much, George. Let's do a quick bit.
Breaking news.
Vodafone Ghana is becoming Telecel. Stay tuned.
Thanks for staying with us. Let's do sports. Razak Musbao is here.
Yeah, MFA. Well, just some few days to the opening ceremony of the African Games is happening on Friday at the University of Ghana Stadium. I'm not sure, people have been talking about the publicity of the games. Not sure you've been seeing some of the, have you seen some of the billboards, etc.?
Postponements and things.
Yeah, the badminton was supposed to come off on yesterday, Sunday, but it had to be postponed due to some venue issues to 7th, which is on Thursday over there. But there have been concerns about publicity of the game. People are not seeing this billboards, etc. However, one question that has also been in the minds of people is how can they get tickets for the games and how much will it cost? Well, guess what? The minister says there are some games the tickets will be free. Others you have to pay between 50 to 1,000 Ghana cedis. Yes. Let's hear from the Minister of Youth and Sports.
Information, the ticketing range from 50 Ghana cedis all the way to 500 cedis, and even sometimes maybe 1,000 cedis. But it will depend upon where you are going to be seated. If you want to buy a ticket and come and sit at the VVIP at the table tennis, then you should be ready to pay more. If you want to buy a ticket and sit at the wings, it has its price. So it all depends upon where you want to sit. So the ticket starts from 50 cedis. It's as low as 50 cedis. And some of the events will even be free.
Yeah, so that's the Minister for Youth and Sport, Mustafa, received there. But another question is, what will the athletes get in terms of monetary reward in the events? They win a gold medal, a silver medal for Ghana. The minister says discussions are far advanced on that. However, the exact prize money for that is yet to be communicated to the athletes.
How much we are going to pay for a gold medal and a silver medal and bronze medal, I've not disclosed that yet to most of the skis. It has been determined, but we will disclose that once we finish the consultation, because we have not yet finished the consultation, but it has been determined, and it is very, very motivating.
Minister says it's very motivating. So if you're an athlete for Ghana in these African Games, expect very motivating reward, although it is unclear yet. Well, the tennis competition is underway at the Trade Fair Center. Evans, you might want to pass there and watch some exciting tennis. I've seen some really young people, 8 years, 10 years, playing the tennis.
Yeah, what I really want to
really
watch
nice.
is the swimming.
Yeah. At the Boteman Sports Complex.
The athletics,
the
tracks.
At the University of Ghana Stadium is going to be great. Cricket too. I don't know if you follow cricket, but we're going to have some cricket tournaments.
I know nothing about cricket. I know you're pulling my leg. That's fine.
Anyway, that's it for sports.
Well, thank you very much. Now, the ministry, the minority in parliament say they are dismayed by what they call the wanton dissipation of public funds. After the Education Ministry spent over 68 million CDs to purchase WASI pass questions for students, PASCO, the expenditure incurred in 2020-2021, according to the minister, was part of government's efforts to ensure that students are properly prepared for the exams. But the minority, they're criticizing the sole sourcing used and the amount involved. More from the minority shortly. But first, listen to the Education Minister, Dr. Yause Duchum, who says the decision to use sole sourcing was an advice from the Ghana Education Service.
Education as part of the government policy to improve access, equity and quality of education across the country introduced the provision of materials to public senior high schools across the country under the Free Senior High School program to guide students in their learning and preparation towards the West African Examination Council's examination. The ministry employed the single source method in procuring the 568,755 past question papers for the senior high school students who wrote the West African Senior School Certificate exams in 2020. The method employed was informed by the recommendations from the Ghana Education Service and the West African Examination Council. Mrs. Akiola Publications Company Limited and Kingdom Boost Stationery Limited were recommended by the GES and the West Africa Examination Council.
Meanwhile, a Sherman MP, Ernest Nogben, who's named the question to the ministers to, told journalists at a news conference that it was unconscionable to blow 68 million cedis to photocopy past questions.
The Ministry of Education procured, photocopied examination question papers at a cost of 33 million Ghana cedis. Photocopy. 33 in 2020, 33 million Ghana cedi at a unit cost of 59.10 Ghana cedis. 59.10 Ghana cedis. A photocopy of examination question papers. And that was done under the single source procurement method. You and I know very well that we have a lot of companies, entities that could produce examination past questions. We have a lot. It is not only Akiola or Kingdom Books that could produce or that could make a photocopy of that.
That's the Ashaman MP, Ernest Nogbe. Let's do some security stories then.
Yes, let's do that. Let's go to the Upper East region where the Security Council there say it is prepared to address any potential terror threats that may emanate from the Sahel. The head of the Upper East Regional Security Council, who also doubles as the regional minister, Stephen Yakubu, emphasizes that preparations for any eventualities in border communities in Ghana have been underway for a long time. These remarks come in the wake of the tragic killing of 170 people, including women and children, in neighboring Burkina Faso. We'll hear from him shortly, but first, President Akufo-Addo, during the State of the Nation address, expressed concerns about the spread of terrorism from the Sahel to West African coastal states. And of course, on the back of that attack recently, it's raising further concerns that the border towns need extra strengthening when it comes to security. The Upper East Regional Minister says that is already something that they are looking at pretty closely.
Disturbing news for Upper East and indeed the whole northern sector, those who are bordering Burkina and also bordering Togo as well. At Resec and Upper East region, we have been preparing, or we are prepared, things like this for a very long time. Remember, this thing didn't happen today, it happened a couple of years ago. And since I've been there as a regional minister, we have always been making sure our borders are very safe in terms of people crossing into our territory. I can tell you that recently the EU, sent combat vehicles. Many of them, I will not be able to give you the number because of security reasons, into the region. We now also have 11 battalions, and then we also have 12 battalions. So we have now 2 battalions in the region. One is overseeing both Upper East and Northeast, and the other one is in Upper East and North, and then Upper West also. That has been done simply because of the nature of our borders and the threat levels also. We have the military, as I've also said, we have the police also. Remember that we are doing all this and with mindful of what is happening in Boko, which is just next door also. So what I would say is that the government has prepared enough for us to be able to withstand some of these atrocities.
Well, that is the regional minister there, and it comes on the back of that attack in Komsilga, Nording and Soro. These are communities that are pretty close to our borders there in that part of the country.
And it tells you that when you see something, you ought to say something. And that's how we wrap up today's edition of Newsnight here on Joy 99.7 FM. We have Nanan Sakwa coming up next with That's My Opinion.
Yes. What's Ghana's divine purpose is the question. Do you know?
Divine purpose, what makes us truly Ghanaian crowd? People are struggling with it. Then our divine purpose. We'll stay for that.
Exactly. We need to learn a bit more about that from Nana Sakwa later here on Newsnight. In fact, right after us.
There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. I am MFA Paul.
And my name is Evans Mensah.